You do.
Guy.
Oh, he's a
He's a good boy, he really is.
He was awfully good.
He's beautiful.
Thank you.
We're on air now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, and we'll call the meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Newbury to order. For those who are watching on television, I'm John Weiss, I'm the chair.
Linda McCamick?
George Morse, associate member.
David Powell.
What's that? What do I do?
Introducing yourself to
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
TV
Forget.
audience.
John O'Connell.
Martha Taylor, Town Planner.
Okay. Okay, so the first order of business that we have is really the meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at these?
Yep.
So do I have a
The motion to accept them?
motion for, well, let's do it one at a time, I think.
Okay.
Do we have to do them? I think we do.
Probably cleaner.
For November 6th,
So moved?
a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously.
Was that the correction that I sent you? Which one was that on? I've forgotten.
Actually, that was on this one. It had to do with the order of conditions for
The date.
the
yes.
where, the date, yes. So,
Yeah, I'm
So you
sorry, I couldn't remember which one it was on. The date on the minutes about the order of conditions for the Middle Road.
For the Middle Road agreements?
Wire, weir, or what you want to call it, was actually June of 2011, not last year.
That sounds right. I probably said last year, it was at least a year ago.
Right, yeah. And
I
the
didn't
only
think that it
reason
mattered for that
why
context
I
of the
felt that was
discussion.
important is.
Yeah, because there was no decision. It was just you giving information about when it
Yeah.
was passed.
Right.
Okay, the minutes for the meeting that we had on the 14th.
so do you want to amend that to approve them as amended with that
With that date?
date?
Yeah, that's fine. I thought, you hadn't made those changes?
I hadn't
Okay.
made the change.
Okay, do you want to make that
Make a motion to accept them with, as amended.
as amended? All, seconded? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. The minutes from the meeting of November 14th. Have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We have no appearances tonight, except for Carla. So we really have no one who's really wants to speak with us, all right? And I see no one in the audience. 101 Newbury Turnpike. John and Martha?
Doug has written a letter to Angelo, which went out today, basically saying, sort of giving the history that site visits have taken place, and nothing has happened yet. So he's been requested to come to the next regularly scheduled Concom meeting, which will be December 16th. To discuss the status of the project, and Doug wants, 2 weeks prior to this date, Doug wants him to provide a narrative and file a plan with the commission on how he's going to bring the project into compliance, including tasks and a timeframe for completion of those tasks. And if he fails to respond to the request, it may result in formal enforcement and inclusion of the DEP's Northeast region on all communication.
Okay. Would you
The
just,
site doesn't look any different than
No.
it did at the last meeting.
or 3 months ago, as far as I can tell. Would you just forward that to all the board members, Martha,
Sure.
when you get a chance? I don't know that we need to comment any further on that. Stormwater rules and regs. Revision update. Is that twice or just,
No, one is subdivision.
oh, stormwater and subdivision, okay. Can we take them up as one or not?
No,
Well,
I would say that they should be covered separately.
Okay, so where are we?
I do know on the stormwater that I was speaking with John Hargraves yesterday, and he knows that he owes you comments.
He knows
and-
he owes me something,
And
yeah.
he'll get
He's
them to you.
crossing the
and-
street when he sees me coming.
No,
But
he said,
I did get a response from Steve Sawyer, which was positive. His basic comment was, well, this is what we do anyway, which is the way it's supposed to be. There's nothing unusual about those regulations. They just basically say, do it like DEP says.
Okay. And so, again, John, if I remember the notes that we had from last time, that you were saying you want this, I think, finalized by early March.
Yes.
So
The
that,
reason being is I've been telling EPA for literally years now, 2 or
Right.
3 years, that we're
Right.
working on it, and at some point, I really gotta say we're done.
and I was just working backwards to when, I guess, what is the schedule at this point in time in terms of where the document is, where does it go next, and the like? And then when do we need to, on the stormwater regs, have a discussion with the Concom officially about that, about who's responsible?
Well, in a sense, it's sort of a separate issue,
It is separate,
because it's in the bylaw, but it should happen.
right?
And I guess, in terms of schedule, a couple of questions. One, do we want to, normally, we hold the public hearing for the zoning in April. That's been kind of our target, or that's the way it's worked out. John would like to have these adopted by March 31st.
Right.
So I guess the question is, do we want to try to bundle everything together so we have one public hearing? If so, then, we'll need to work backwards.
What is
from that.
what's the cost for the advertisement?
I think if it's, what is it? It's 45 cents per linear inch. If it's a short notice, and this probably could be, it's not a huge
But
deal.
we're gonna do subdivision and this at the same time,
Ideal,
hopefully. I would
hopefully.
Hope to help, yeah. Round figures. It's more than 200, it's less than 1,000 from the
Oh,
sound
yeah.
of it.
The one that we did for the fall zoning was 500 something for two.
Okay, for the
Two
two.
runs.
Okay, I think we can probably do this for less,
Yeah.
less than that. Yeah, I mean, if the planning board budget is strained by having 2 hearings, I can pick it up out of my budget without any problem
No, we can,
at that level.
When you say your budget, you mean? Counselor?
Stormwater budget?
Oh, you have, I didn't know you had a budget.
Yeah, we have a budget, right.
So,
well, I think it might be easier to assess perhaps in January, when we have a better sense of how far along the site plan review and the medical marijuana
Sure.
things
Well, I'd
are
rather
as
do
to-
it all at once, obviously, because regardless of where it comes from, it's town funds, so
Right.
we don't want to spend a few $100s if we don't have to. The one remaining thing about the stormwater, well, there's 2 remaining things. One, you're going to get that to Joe at some point, right?
is it ready to go to him?
Well, I guess the question is, I'd like to go over Ed's comments with you to make sure what you'd
Oh,
like to
okay.
include and
Yeah,
what.
I think I bought into just about everything.
So maybe we could sit down and
Yeah,
do
we can
that.
sit down sometime soon, sure.
And then I guess the question is, do you want to wait for comments from John Hargraves, or do you want to
Not
just?
particularly, I would go, I don't think it's necessary, I think I'm gonna treat him just like every other engineer that's looking at it. And I think if he sees something missing, we can sort it out,
Okay,
you know?
so why don't we sit down, finalize the revision with Ed's comments,
Yeah,
and then I'll send
okay.
it off to Joe.
Okay,
Okay, and then in sending it off to Joe, Joe is doing this, let's go back to where we were about 3 months ago, when we were considering sending this out for some kind of a peer review and getting some proposals in, et cetera. We're sending it out to Joe, and we're not going to do that? Is that right?
no,
Or
I.
just asking
think the
Joe
co-
for his
The
review.
Concom has no intention of sending it out RFPs to a Boston firm, Lord, no. Joe has, as I understand it, has agreed to have a look at it for nothing, which
Okay.
is kind of normal, because when we were in this biz, that's exactly what we would have done. We did it in a number of cases. So, and he's the guy that has to enforce it, at least for the foreseeable future. So I think it's appropriate that he do look at it.
Okay, so when you say that we would have a public hearing on it, what is the planning board's responsibility versus the Concom's responsibility?
Well, I think it would be our public hearing. I mean, I think it would be that would be a joint hearing, would it not?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
But
maybe,
weren't we
It's gotta
keeping
be
this
at
open to the
if there's
FinCom?
other issues going on.
That's right, that's what I'm trying to find out.
Well,
We're
technically-
trying to hand this over to the
Yeah, well,
Conservation
technically,
Commission.
it has to be us, because it cannot be handed over to the Conservation Commission until such time as town meeting approves it.
well, that's the
Approves
No,
bylaw.
I
That's-
disagree with that, yeah.
That's,
don't
that's the
know.
bylaw change.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, this might be a question for Ginny. I think it might make sense to have a joint public hearing because we'd be doing
I
it with
think
a
that would,
subdivision.
I'd feel good
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Sure. No,
I'd
I
feel
think
good about
that's
that.
appropriate, yeah.
Okay, so why don't we just plan on doing it that way?
Okay, yeah, so let's just have that run its own separate
Okay.
track and,
Okay, yeah, I think you should separate that from all the other things that we're trying to get
I think that
done
makes
in the
sense.
spring, okay?
Now, the other thing that's flapping in the breeze on the stormwater is the fee structure. And we've been trying to get some advice from town council for a while. We did get some recently, and I think we need to discuss it internally before we go anywhere with that publicly. Tracy and I have had some discussions, but I don't really want to talk about it at
Okay.
this point. But I
All right.
think we need to, Martha, you and I and Doug need to sit with Tracy, I think, and make a decision. I haven't told you that, so I'll get you up on
okay,
that shortly.
okay.
So, just staying on stormwater for a second.
Sure.
So if you get this to Joe, like within the week, Martha? So I guess I ask the question of the board members, would anyone like to see these before they go out or after they come back from Joe?
Not I.
Okay.
The only thing I can think is if they come back from Joe with some fairly major,
And then you'd like to see them,
Comments.
otherwise.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, we're okay.
Yeah.
So let's leave it that way, that unless, the board doesn't need to see them unless there's some major changes that Joe comes up with,
Okay.
okay? All right. Okay.
Of the two, personally, I consider from a stormwater standpoint, the subdivision rules and regulations revision more important than the other one, the stormwater one, to get out there. And I'd dearly love to get them both at the same time because they relate to each other, they reference each other.
Right.
And the other thing is that at the moment, they mandate a stormwater management system that is totally illegal and frowned
Right.
upon and everything else.
Right.
Immoral, fattening,
Right.
you name it.
And, my problem with the subdivision regs is that we were doing these for a while, hot and heavy, but I don't think we've looked at them. Is everybody okay with this, with
We
where
haven't
we are on
talked
them?
about them
In about 6
probably
months.
since March or April.
Right.
Yeah,
Thereabouts.
we need to get it back on the.
So I'm wondering if we could get them back on the table before,
Let everybody have a look and
before the,
further comments.
before
if
Christmas? Just to take a look? I mean, they're there, aren't they?
They are there. The sections that haven't really been addressed are the administrative ones, which I had some
And
concerns.
everything else, we've made the changes that we individually felt had to be made. We went through all the details.
There were 5 sections that I consider
Right.
the technical
Right.
ones, and we pretty well agreed on those, but it would not hurt to review, to have another look to
Is
see
it-
if there's some.
Board members want to take another look at these sometime in the next, 2 weeks?
one of the difficulties with that always is to know what we changed.
Oh, I know.
And so, I don't know, it would be very helpful, John, I think, if it's not too much to ask, if you could go through and indicate where you think we should be looking most critically. In other words,
I'd be
where are
happy to do that.
You
In
know,
other
it
words,
would help.
it would probably relate to the major changes. But that,
Yeah.
am I,
Just put a line next to the paragraph with an
Yeah.
arrow and however time, 5 or 6 times, these are the concerns that you've got, or these are the areas that we've made the changes, so everybody doesn't have to reread the.
yeah,
all the
maybe
document.
something, to keep the verbiage down,
Yeah,
maybe just something as simple as an arrow off
Yeah.
to the side.
Yeah,
That,
yep,
right, yeah.
and then as we discuss it, somebody will say, why are we talking about this? And I will say, well, because this is what I think, and
Okay.
we can argue from there down.
So is it realistic
that's a
to,
good
to
idea.
get them out in 2 weeks?
Let's see, the next meeting is December 4th.
Well, I don't think we have to have them by then, but, I mean, we can have them, and then our next meeting is if it's the 4th, it would be the 18th.
Well, I can do that part.
Okay.
I can get Gail to do that, 'cause she has the whole thing on the word processor.
Okay, so then
Whatever you call it these days.
And then if you could have that at the
Still
next
call it a
meeting.
typewriter
And
personally.
then, instead of sending out, because it might be a lot of stuff, but just have it at the 4th meeting, and then we'll get back by the 18th.
Yeah, well, I can send it out. Somebody will have to tell me how to send it out to 5 people all at once.
Well,
I don't know how to do that.
I can do that if you send it to me.
I can send it to you and
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
distribute it,
So
yeah.
I can do that. And if it's a hard copy with arrows, I can scan it and get it into the computer and send it out.
I can mark it up and get her to put the arrows in, I think, so that you've got something that's,
Good,
Okay, we'll sort that out.
good. Okay, anybody have any further comments on either one of these stormwater or subdivision regs? Okay, zoning amendments for spring ATM, right now, we've got the site plan review revisions that Martha sent out just a day or so ago. I'd just like to make a comment that I'd like to thank Martha and Linda and Kathleen, because I think it gives us a lot to take a look at. But I don't think I know that, I'd like to maybe schedule some time, maybe on the 4th, where we really spend a lot of time as people have had the chance to review them. Are you here, you're here the 4th?
Yes, not the 18th.
Okay, so,
Mike, although, were we gonna try to have them read them before our next meeting with their comments, so we could, or we were
We
not
had-
gonna do it here?
We had talked about trying to do that, but.
what do you want to do?
We had talked about getting some feedback from the board before our next meeting.
Before
Which
our,
the three of us meet again.
before, oh,
Which is December 10th, I think.
well,
So
that,
we meet
okay,
again?
so we're
Yeah.
tasked.
Yeah, so if we
Yeah.
do.
We're tasked to review the document. It's only
I
10
did it
pages.
already.
Well, I've done it, but I have not done it in detail, and I would like to go back into it and do it again. And I'd like to have George's comments, and we need John's. And we then discuss it as a board on the 4th. Allocate half hour, 45 minutes to talk about,
we all have specifics.
that we all have specific questions and to go over the changes that have been made. And the changes are substantial. And so, so let's do that.
Okay.
Is that
And then
okay?
we can meet,
We're meeting on the 10th.
Then you meet 6 days after that.
yeah.
Okay, so you just agendize that for
a
the
block.
4th, a block of time, maybe more. I don't know. I mean, it's a significant piece of writing, so. And for that meeting, just so the questions that I'm going to have are going to deal, a lot of them about, when you've inserted new language, where would you have taken that from? You know, there's a lot of new language that looks like Newburyport in some ways. Some looks like other Ipswich, and I was just curious if you can reference it, if you know where you took some of that language from. Not that it's lifted, but that's
Which documents? are
approaches that other towns have had, and just so that we could know where that might
Yeah, I mean,
have come from.
there were probably about 5. Actually, Mark Bobrowski's model in the end turned out to be quite useful for some things.
Okay,
So I used that in Newbury, but I'll
okay,
put together
good.
a list.
Good.
I thought it was quite good, as a matter of fact. I got a couple of things I wanted to talk about, but I don't, after just a quick look, but they aren't really issues. They're just things I think maybe we could expand upon.
I think.
But I think it's pretty good,
Yeah,
frankly.
I-
Quite good.
Yeah, I didn't want to say what my thoughts were on it yet, because I really, although I
Yeah.
did review it, we didn't have that as a work item yet, and I want to make sure that everybody's gone through it with a lot of detail in mind about what was the rationale of making some of these changes. Because if we take something like this document to the town meeting, then we have to have a pretty strong reason for why we've taken a document that was 4 pages and made it 10. I mean, and I think we need to do that,
I think a lot of it is, it was put into 2 tiers.
right?
Yeah, that's expanded.
So anyway, let's focus on that in the next meeting.
Surprise may be that town meeting might sleep through it all.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, the next trick will be to do the rules and regulations that accompany this, if indeed it gets through town meeting.
Medical marijuana, I think our next step here is that there's a subcommittee of George and myself and Martha, am I right? So I think we need to set a
Put a
meeting.
date.
Why don't we do that now? Martha, why don't you, next week?
I'm only in on Monday next week.
Oh, right, because it's can we meet on Monday, George?
You and I can. Wait a minute, I have an appointment on Monday, hang on.
I'm okay Monday. I could do an hour on Monday or something, just to get us rolling.
Yeah, I've got,
And otherwise,
You're not
otherwise,
gonna be here Monday.
I am here Monday.
you
I'm
are?
out on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
otherwise it's the week after Thanksgiving.
Well, it'd be nice to at
Do it-
least get a start before our next meeting, before the
So
4th.
I could do Monday if you could do it, George.
I have an appointment at noon, but other than that, we can do it.
Well, why don't we do, where's your meeting at noon? Can we do it at,
In Newburyport.
oh,
I won't be that long.
what's comfortable for you?
Anything. I don't think,
I prefer the morning,
okay,
9, 10 o'clock?
9 o'clock,
okay.
all right?
Good.
Okay. And what's that date? That's the 25th.
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Caldwell Farm Trail. Is that why you're here? Well,
Surprise.
Martha and I had a meeting with our attorney, and I think we're still waiting for her. Have we heard anything really in detail back from her on the easement and other things or not?
We've got a preliminary draft, but we're waiting.
Okay.
There's some things
So we do
to
have some
finalized.
preliminary information that, I'm not sure, because it's preliminary, I don't know how much I can share with you. It's just that, what I can tell you what she's doing is that she's going through, we asked the attorney, not that it's a position that we have, but since we were asked by your HOA to consider alternatives and to rid everyone of the easement, we asked her, what are the technical steps that have to be taken to do that? It's not that we're recommending that, and so she's going through all the documents and coming up with if you did that, here are the approvals that would need to be received in order to do that. So once we receive that, we'll probably get back to your group and see what our next steps ought to be.
Are you thinking about taking it?
No? What we're doing is, we're getting information, just want to be clear about it. In any discussion with any other party, since they asked us this, we said, we will look at that. In other words, and the first step in looking at it is, what are the steps that need to be taken? That's all we're doing right now. If the town chose to do something, here are the steps that either the town has to take or the grantor, which is now the HOA, would have to take in order to rid that document of the trail easement. Okay? So that's what we're doing.
Would it have to go before the state to get approval, or is that?
One way or another, in all probability, yes. We just don't know how.
Oh, yeah, it does.
So-
I've had some conversations, can shed a little light on that if you want me to.
Well, I think I'd rather wait to get the attorney's opinion first.
I think that would be smart,
You know?
given that this is a
Right.
highly controversial issue.
Right, so.
Our ducks totally in order.
So we we expect to have this by our next meeting?
In 2 weeks?
Yeah, I would certainly
Oh, yeah.
expect so.
Oh, yeah.
So we will have her opinion. We will then discuss it and then make some recommendation as a board about what we think we ought to do next. and I can't prejudge that. Okay?
Carla has raised a point to me that I think we need to perhaps raise to our attorney. And that is the standing of the HOA versus the individual homeowner in this particular instance.
Mm-hmm. I understand that completely. And
Right.
my reading this thing through, when you read the conservation restriction, it does talk about how the grantor's obligations are transferred through deeds.
Mm-hmm.
And so the individual deed that you signed, and and we assume everyone has signed. So it's very clear that that's where the where some responsibility lies.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't know is your good question about whether the HOA assumes all of that. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think my other question is, legally, how are the actions of the HOA supported? In other words, do they have to officially, in writing, poll their membership, et
Don't know.
cetera? Right.
I mean, the document says,
Depends on the document.
right, the document is pretty clear. I mean, it says, the grantor, who was Berry, its or his successors are assigned.
Signs, yeah.
And most attorneys interpret that as an HOA plus, I think. But anyway, I don't want to,
No, isn't that something that would be outlined in their bylaws? Or not?
I don't know. Anyway,
I saw they're kind of extensive, and I saw them while I was searching for the deed.
mm-hmm,
Our board does a pretty good job, I would say, but my concern is that I sign documents that says the town has a right to put a trail easement in the conservation restriction. And I feel very strongly that I sign these documents, and my husband also feels. He's not so much in favor of the trail, but he's in favor of the fact that he signed these documents. And I feel a responsibility to stand by my word. And that's why I will always be here
good.
separately.
Well,
because
we're glad to hear
More
that.
to your credit.
I know that.
Glad to hear that, but
A
in-
deal is a deal.
yeah, a deal is a deal. So we will, I'm almost certain we'll agendize this. Do you check with Martha about, so I was just curious.
With Martha,
Okay,
Make sure it's on the next.
make sure,
agenda.
just make sure it's on the agenda. When do you post the agenda?
The Monday before
The
the
Monday
meeting.
before. So anybody who's watching, if they want to see if this is on the agenda, you can check our website to see if in fact it is. Okay?
You can actually sign up, Carla, on the website to get notifications of any board agenda.
I may have done that.
Yeah, so you can get the selectmen, you can get ours, you can get the Conservation Commission, anything, so it's automatic, you don't have to go looking.
I'll plan on 2 weeks.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the original deal, the original deed and the document, is that something you've got online? Can you email it to me?
Yeah, which one do you want there?
I don't know, the one that we're talking about,
Do
the
you
one
want
that
the-
defines the grantor's responsibility.
There's a series of.
Yeah,
Well,
there's the trail easement document, there's a conservation restriction.
Probably those two.
Those two are the strongest.
Those two
Okay.
would be
All right,
the
David,
ones,
those
yeah.
are the two
Yeah.
strongest.
Yeah, right.
Those
It'll take me a
clearly
while after
spell
Christmas
out,
to get through them.
yeah, John, they clearly spell out,
Yeah.
this is the deal.
And also, there are other thing which sort of tends to get lost in the wash, and I have copies of that, is the management plan, which goes along with the conservation restriction. And that enters into more descriptive narrative about trails and grounds and.
No,
et
I've
cetera.
seen, you sent me something some time ago, or
Mm-hmm.
that had it yellowed out. Is that the documents you're talking about, or were they more
Probably.
extensive?
Yeah.
There were two
I
paragraphs in a
pulled-
doc.
I pulled stuff out because
Yeah.
frankly, some of them were like 40 pages long and you don't wanna go through the whole thing. But, yeah.
Master plan, anybody else want to say anything on Caldwell? Anybody? Master plan update? David and I and Martha are the subcommittee on this.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to set a date to meet.
Right.
So maybe we can do this, though, after the marijuana.
After the marijuana.
Great idea.
Yes, of course.
Excuse me, after the meeting about marijuana, in the 1st of December, maybe that week of, what's good for you? Are you here the whole week?
I'm here the whole week, yeah.
David, are you here that whole week of the, what is it, the
It's the third.
second,
second,
third, fourth, fifth?
Yeah, I'm working one day, and I don't know which it is right now.
Or do you want to just get me a note on when you're available, and then we'll just,
Right,
we'll plan
yeah.
to meet
I
that
probably
week?
won't know until next week when I'm available.
Okay. Well, just
Yeah,
Oh.
as soon as I do.
I have only 2 obligations that week, and so I can't do Monday or Tuesday that week, but I can do I could
So
do Wednesday,
Wednesday or Thursday.
What are Monday?
Thursday would be best.
What are the, okay, Monday and Tuesday
Second and third.
date-wise,
Second and third.
Third. Yeah, I have a client, and they may be ready by the 3rd or the 4th, and I don't know.
Okay, so when you know, let us know, and we're available the Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Or can you do Friday?
I can. I prefer not to.
Prefer
but I
not to.
can.
So Wednesday, Thursday. No,
Okay.
Wednesday, Thursday.
All
Okay.
right, so,
And John, for our Monday meeting, what I thought was a noon appointment is one for 10:15.
Oh, so,
Well, if you just meet for an hour.
let's not
you're
do
all
nine, so let's do 1 o'clock in the afternoon then,
Deal.
all right? Okay. Liaison reports, do you have anything new on the Board of Selectmen, except for, well, interesting, I guess last night, I didn't have but reading about it's just not the Board of Selectmen, but it was at the meeting on the capital planning group, I guess, that made a presentation about the expansion of the
Public Works.
Public
or-
Works, no,
Public
not
safety.
public safety.
Oh, I wasn't even aware of that. To
Well,
who?
it was in the paper today.
I didn't read it, I just saw it.
That one,
yeah,
Charlie.
it's in the paper.
And what it is it talks about, and I guess my question is, well, was that paid for by the capital planning group or by the town itself separate from
Who
that?
did they, well, what,
It was an architectural report about
Yeah,
Um,
engineering.
a new facility.
right, I'm the chair of that committee, so,
You'd like to know.
but I didn't know well, was this
Carrie?
the article by Jen Solis, giving some history
Yes.
about it? Okay, I haven't seen it.
So, anyway, I mean, it talks about a new facility back here, revamping the bottom floor here for expanded offices or town
Storage, actually.
employees, et cetera, et cetera. So that's,
Yeah,
I
this
guess
is-
it was discussed last night.
Well, it's funny, you should raise that. I don't know whether it was, because there's no indication in her report that it was an item at the selectmen's meeting, because there are no comments. It's as though
It
she
has-
sat down with Bob.
No,
Connors. What happened?
I'll have to read the article. I didn't know that there was
I
going to
will
be a
say
presentation.
that you're right about
Meeting?
that.
Extend
But-
much beyond the point where I left,
Which meeting?
Selectmen's meeting.
Last week?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Not
that
too
was me
much.
sitting next to you.
Right, right, I know. But people are talking about last night, which is actually Concom.
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's,
thought you-
yeah, no, I didn't mean, yeah, last meeting is what I meant. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting, and
Well, I can give you, not having seen Jen's story, I know that she was, she's going to be doing a series of articles about this. To back up a little bit, we've known for some time that the police station has some significant deficiencies, and that's been studied in regard to Woodbridge School, all sorts of things in the past.
New town hall, new
A new
police
town hall,
station,
moving town
whichever.
hall over to Woodbridge and expanding police up here. Anyway, nothing's been done, but there was a public safety site selection committee, which was chaired by Bob Connors, that narrowed down options to 6 different sites, most of which really are not easily done for one reason or another. The fire department is interested in new facility as well, so this is a chance to partner with them to actually develop a public safety complex which would house both the police and the fire department, protection number 2. And the site we're looking at is the one that's just to the east of the current fire station. And as part of that, we had a site survey done by Tim Meehan, which, gave us the boundaries, but also topography and all of that stuff. And we commissioned an architectural firm called CSS to
Yeah.
do the feasibility study.
Where are they
I
from?
think they're out of Wakefield.
Are they? I've never
Yeah,
heard of them.
I think so.
No,
And they
I've not heard of them
specialize,
either.
they specialize in public safety
Oh,
buildings.
okay.
And they had done some work on the DPW building with Sam.
Oh, okay.
So they went through and they've developed a program and a very conceptual plan, not to indicate what it's gonna look like really, but just to make sure that all the program elements
So they've done a
can fit on the
programmatic
site.
plan.
Exactly. And then the next step, hopefully, will be to go before town meeting with a request for funding for the design, and move ahead with that.
Well, have they selected this site, though?
It was a feasibility study to determine whether this is a viable site.
And are they still considering
The other ones,
other sites?
they're not off the table, but a whole presentation will be made to the selectmen and
Basically
various others
pushing this site.
well, to recommend this site.
Well, I must admit, I'm very happy that you are the chairperson of this committee. And only because they talk also, and am I incorrect in this, about an extension being built on this building?
And we've talked about it. The original idea was to move offices downstairs, but we desperately need space for storage. There are some issues with downstairs, so it seems like it would make more sense to extend.
Yeah. And I'm just saying that, doing those kinds of things are always difficult architecturally. And the fact that you're on the committee is, since I assume you're the only architect who works in
No,
town
we actually
hall.
do have a resident, our citizen representative.
No,
who
no,
is
you're the
also-
only architect in town hall.
Oh, in town hall, yes,
Right.
yes. We do have an architect
Is,
on the
what's
committee.
his
Eric's
name?
on.
Eric, I saw him in
Well,
there
Eric is-
today, yeah.
Right.
Eric
That's
Grizzly?
good.
No, Eric
Eric.
Svan. Eric Svan, who was one of our candidates for.
From Old Farm,
the
Yes,
zoning-
Old Farm
sure,
Road.
right, who
Zoning
comes
alternate.
occasionally, yes, right.
Now, may not be this much detail, but it's important, pumping sewage into the Newburyport system up the hill? I don't think.
We have
It's not
an.
gonna flow by gravity on the other side of the hill, to the other side of the hill.
isn't?
But I mean, given the swamp that's next door, I
Right.
don't think we want to have a leaching field
We
for a
don't.
public safety building.
No,
Oh.
it's that we have a commitment to be able to tie into their system.
You are, good. Okay.
That's why this is a great site. I mean, you've got water and sewer.
Yeah.
I guess what I find a little distressing is that the planning board has not been involved in this in a sort of invitational way. Partly because the master plan, as we will discover, speaks to this issue, not specifically these sites. But then in the newspaper, I was considerably distressed to see that she listed a number of the alternate sites, including the library. Now, talk about sort of bad timing, when the library is about to go to another day a week and is making very determined efforts to use their budget in the best possible way to service the community. So to hang out the fact that the library might become the police station, fire station, and I know it wasn't serious, but the problem is you put that in the newspaper, so I found it, if we'd had a chance to look at that, I would have said, wait a minute, you really need to think about this.
Well, that was the site selection committee, which is not our current committee, decided that it would be appropriate to look at, basically all the town-owned sites.
Right. I
So-
mean, that's
Well,
different.
whether they
Yeah.
did that, no, but listen,
Yeah,
whether they did that or not, one of the things that one always has to think about when you communicate anything is what people are going to misapprehend from what you say. And in this case, it didn't talk about all the town's stuff being on the table. I presume Jennifer was handed a bunch of materials, which, like any good reporter, she went through and made a story out of, because she quotes very specific numbers, for example. All I'm getting at is that just simply, my sense is that this was a very badly timed article.
Well, it may be. One of the problems that a town of Newbury's size is that we don't have a public relations officer or a communications director. And these things happen. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's difficult to control those things in this town. Not this town, any small town. That's all.
Right.
And it's meant, all right, so anything else from the board that you are aware of?
No, and they approved the special permit for Playmakers.
Right,
Can't think of any
okay.
other, and the Concom approved last night contingent on,
They did, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, but you're stealing his thunder.
sorry.
You're stealing his thunder.
that's all right.
sorry,
MVPC.
John.
We meet tomorrow night, so we
Okay.
just meet monthly.
And then John?
Yeah, like Martha just said, we did approve, subject to cleaning up. And, you know, just for the record, amusing as it may seem that we're worried about the last cupful of stormwater, that isn't quite the case, David. There are issues there that a reviewing agency is very likely to pick up, okay? If they pick it up, they're not gonna do what I did. When I found a problem, I did the calc and decided it was not an issue. That's why I made the statement. This isn't any big deal from a practical standpoint. But if it's gonna be reviewed by another agency, they're not gonna bother to do that. What they're gonna do is just send it back, schedule a site visit for a month from now, and maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks from now, Chrissy's ready to go. Whereas now should be ready, hopefully should be ready to go, you know, in a few days. That's the point in cleaning up something like that. I've done quite a few of these professionally for 20-odd years, and, you know, I think I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, hopefully we've got it pretty well to the point now where everybody is happy with it. Martha's reviewed it, Doug reviewed it, I reviewed it, and Tom is quite prepared to clean it up in the next few days. So I think he'll probably have it cleaned up before Susan could have the thing out.
Good. Anything else? John, is that it?
Except for the Concom, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
ZBA?
Has it met?
Whoa. Whoa, this is a record.
Oh my gosh.
I do have one.
You do have other small things?
Yeah, less than an hour, please.
Yeah, we'll do that. I think you all got the email that I sent you regarding the CPA presentation that Tracy's trying to put together for January 15th, Community Preservation Act.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't aware of the date, but I was aware that something was brewing, which is awfully good news. for
Yeah,
this town.
so, and she's gonna have somebody who helped West Newbury through the process give a presentation. That falls on what would have been our meeting date, for January, so I'd like to suggest actually that
Because we don't meet on the 1st.
we're not gonna meet on the 1st, so I'd like to suggest that the board consider meeting on the 8th and the 22nd instead of the 1st, which we wouldn't meet on anyway, and the 15th.
That's fine with me, and I'll tell you why. I would like to meet twice, because then comes the month of February, and if everyone, you may not remember, but I am not going to be here for the month of February. So if we can meet twice in January, that would be very
You're
helpful.
sounding like Mr. Ring
Things
now.
are gonna start to get busy then, too, so I
So,
think that's a good idea.
do we need a motion for that?
I think it'd probably be good
Are
to,
we
So moved.
proposing the 8th and the 18th?
8th and the
22nd.
Oh, because that was really spooky if that was going to happen, because that's my mother's birthday followed by my father's.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, so it's proposed that we, you need to make a an effort or somebody to make some motion.
Make a motion to change our January meetings to January 8th and 22nd.
Right.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. All right, so that's good news. I know, just like Jerry Ring. Please,
Do we want to appraise Marlene of that? Because she has been a long time supporter of,
I sent it to her. I sent the email to
great,
her
excellent, yeah.
of CPAs.
of the CPA.
Well, yeah, and she also has contacts, pretty good contacts in the conservation community. And in fact, there is some, I wonder if it's the same person who worked with West Newbury. Don't know, anyway. I do have one additional little item when we get to that point.
We're done.
Oh, well, okay,
we're-
then, we got a notice to say that there was going to be a DEP I don't know, site visit tomorrow.
Oh, right.
Right,
MIPA,
that's
MIPA,
it.
yeah.
Okay, and I probably will go since I'm gonna be around, as far as I know. And also I followed up and sent what I hope was a pleasant but firm request to mass.gov to please take our link and get it working, because indeed, if you go into Newbury on mass.gov and hit the homepage link, it goes to West Newbury.
Oh.
It does.
And that's why we learned about it the day before the
Well,
meeting.
exactly. So there is a way of contacting the technical crew at mass.gov, and so I'm supposed to get a response.
Well, good, thank you. I
Can't make it.
I
wasn't aware of
can,
that.
I have
Yeah, you got anything you want me to? I'm planning on making it.
I don't
Nothing in
think so.
particular.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed, when we walked it before, it seemed, pretty.
It's pretty cut and dried,
Yeah,
I think,
they've got
yeah.
it pretty well covered. Is
Yeah.
Doug gonna be able to make it?
Pardon me?
Is Doug planning
I
to be?
do not know. I have not been in contact. Does Susan know? Because she would let him, she would pass it on to him. Does Susan know about this?
She
'Cause
must.
she was in touch with him today, because that letter,
I was just gonna say, well, they're having
she
this
called,
private
she called
conversation.
Doug
We
to
have a
see what to
motion
do with it
adjourn.
after I was in there.
A motion to
Where it
adjourn.
was.
Sure, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Pass.
Aye.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Wow, that's,
Really?
This
and
is
Kathleen is
something.
not here